Welcome to the Tech Savvy Professor podcast, which features two faculty members, now I guess program coordinators, who love tech and love making it part of their work. I'm Marty Gensius from Kent State University.
And I'm Eric Perry from Divine Mercy University.
So this is a new role for me. You've done this role before, and I don't understand how to keep it all together and retain your own stuff, because my own stuff is kind of put to the wayside while I'm constantly getting emails from students throughout the day. And some of those emails I'm forgetting about, and then I get emailed 2 days later, and then it becomes a fire that I have to put out. This is not what I was trained for. This is not my forte. So it's a very weird arrangement that I think program coordinators have, because they wind up being put in these roles. And, that's typically, it's not what our training is about. I think I got some leadership skills and stuff like that. This is not leadership. This is dealing with the hundreds of students that we have in the program that all have issues and have major issues when it comes around enrollment and when it comes around signing up for classes. Then everybody has their own individual problems, and it comes to the program coordinator. So we're not going to talk about program coordinators today, but we're going to talk about email. But I'm curious if any of that struck you in terms of reflection.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before on the show, just that organizing tasks and email and requests, it just becomes increasingly problematic. And if you have more than one email account, it gets worse. So, I think now that I've walked into this role, I see emails from faculty, from students, requests, questions, some things I need to chase down information-wise. So they're going to sit for a little bit, and then I need to remember to attend to them later.
Right.
It feels like now I've been using labels in Gmail to try and organize things, and I counted before we got on here, I have 26 labels. So I've created this like mountainous file cabinet within my email that makes things tough to source and figure out.
Yeah, I'm burdened by the yoke of Outlook. It is not my friend. It's not good on portable devices. It's barely good on desktop devices, particularly on the Mac side. And, burdened by Teams and all the other Microsoft products that come along. One of the things that I do like about it is I can pin emails and I can flag emails. So similarly to you with the mountain of folders or mountain of tags that you have on things, I've never been good with tags because I can never remember the tags and which one goes where. So I use folders. Part of the problem with Outlook is the folder structure that you create on your desktop does not show up on any other desktop. And so I have to go looking for folders to favorite them in order to get them in the same arrangement that I have on my home computer where I work. Tags and pins are just as good as how often you can get to respond to some of these things. And like you said, this is a next week problem versus this is a today problem. Those don't well define that unless you color code your flags and change them when next week comes up and it becomes a today problem. I can use reminders. I've been starting to use reminders in all my platforms. So I'll write a reminder to respond to certain things or to do things that are immediate fires to be put out, because reminders will carry from device to device to device. No matter where the email sits and what folder it's in, the reminder, depending on where I'm working, I can pick up the reminder and work on what I need to work on. But I tell you, in this position, I was getting a lot of email when I wasn't in this position. And now that I'm in this position, I get tons of email and I can't put it down because I don't know when the next fire is going to in an email, and I've got to deal with it. So
yeah, and I think the challenge too, like you said, has been what's today's problem and what's next week's, and what do I need information on to actually attend to. and how do I organize those things? And the system I'm in now uses a lot of Google Docs. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of note taking and mentions, and I'll get notifications of those too, like, hey, this is something I need. And that comes across as a separate email notification that I've been mentioned in a document. So those start to stack up too. I like the reminders idea, or even a calendar like hold for that, showing as
Yeah.
busy and then putting the things in for me to attend to. But some of them are just waiting on responses and would take 30 seconds to answer. It's just waiting for that information to come in. So holding a 30-minute or 15-minute block of time even for that seems a little silly. So I'm trying to find better ways to do that. And I've really tried to get out of Outlook and try to live in this Google ecosystem for a little while and see how that fits and if it fits better. And it's been challenging. I think I need to work on and refine that process a little bit more. The labels are helpful, but those they've tended to stack up.
I use as a calendar system, I use Fantastical, and it's rated really high as a calendar system. And I agree, it's a wonderful calendar system. I use for the reminders, Apple reminders, because I'm on Apple machines and devices. And what happens is you can set up Fantastical to put your reminders directly into your calendar. Well, it's not where I want them, but it's at the top in a long list. So at least when I go to my calendar, I can also I knock off two birds with one stone. What am I supposed to be doing right now? And then here's the list of things that I needed to remind myself to get done. So that's been helpful. The problem is sometimes it's like, okay, I'll get to that, and I forget to put a reminder on it, and then it disappears out of my ecosystem completely until I get an email back from a student saying what's going on with this. So
Right. It does add a layer of complexity because you have to remember your own process
yeah,
for handling things, right? So if you've created something that's color coded, you have to remember what those things mean and where they go. I wanted to mention really quickly something I felt like was helpful. This is specifically for PC users, that you can take websites and create an application from that website.
hmm,
So essentially, Gmail, up at the top right, if you use Google Chrome, there's the three dots,
right,
and you click the three dots, and it'll give you an option there uh, to save as an application. So, and that changes how it behaves. It doesn't behave like a web page anymore. It's in kind of the program app box. It updates the same way. But it behaves a little bit differently. There's no kind of web bar and address bar up top, make it a little bit more seamless feeling. And I did that with Gmail and with the Google Calendar because the app side of it was clunky,
really.
trying to install the apps on the PC side. So something for users to try that can feel a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier to move around and handle is to transfer those to apps or save as app, I think is the option.
Yeah, I have Google Calendar, which I wind up using for some grants that I'm on, and that's primarily the platform for that. But what I've done is I've just shared all of the calendars between iCalendar, which is default, or iCloud Calendar, which is a default of the Mac system, Google Calendar, and Fantastical. The thing that I open up is Fantastical, but I can also open up Google Calendar and pretty much see the same thing, with the exception of those damned Outlook invitations that our university insists on doing, because they go blind, they go outside of Outlook and Outlook's calendar system, which I've never opened up. They go completely blind in iCalendar, Fantastical, and Gmail. So the interoperability of those functions that they use in Outlook, not good. So sometimes I have to get those announcements, and I'll force myself to make another entry in one calendar about that meeting. That's a Teams meeting.
Mhm.
So it'll replicate through the whole thing. But we're here kind of to talk. I'm going down a rat hole. We're
We
here
are.
to talk about email and our love or lack of it. and how to manage it, particularly with a lot of student demands.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's been really helpful is we're talking about email here, but I've used TextBlaze a lot. We've talked about those tools in the past. So there's some standard responses to things that have been really helpful. And I found over the last couple of weeks in using it more in a more dedicated way, I remember what the snippets are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm getting a feel for that. Because there's a lot of emails that will come through that need a standard response, the same kinds of questions. Also, I think this is a process-oriented thing for email. If you want to reduce your email, sometimes you got to nip the problem in the bud. So if you're seeing a lot of questions around the same thing, students aren't hearing it or not seeing it enough, and you need to get it in front of them. So there's been a couple of questions like that that seem to come through on a regular basis that I went back to faculty and said, okay, what do we do, to make sure students know this so they're not asking routinely the same kinds of questions.
Yeah, I just ran into that today with a student who wants to get scheduled before or wants to get her prospectus in before the September 30th deadline. Otherwise, she won't be able to register for classes next semester. It's a restriction that we have to kind of move people through getting their perspectives done. The university has set up its own clunky system for creating a course map. And what a lot of students will do is go to the course map and put their stuff in that they're going to take, and then come back to us and say, well, you should be receiving my course map, sign off on that. It's like, no, that's not how we do business. Here's the fillable PDF form. Fill it out. We are not even connected to that system yet because they're working more for undergraduate advising than they are for graduate advising. So coming up with those kind of announcements to let students know, don't get trapped in this sinkhole right now and here's the method that you want to use for getting your perspectives in. It saves a lot of emails coming your way. So your idea of being proactive on the problems that are out there and that exist, and trying to get information out to reduce the number of questions or problem emails that you're going to get, I think is a great idea.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we have to recognize that students are going to have questions. Sometimes they just don't read or don't retain what they read. So the more ways we can get it in front of them, the better. And I think to have the expectation, you're still going to get some of those regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way to get in front of all of it. But I do think in terms of reducing email, that communication part can be really helpful. And something I think is underutilized is course announcements. That's something they're always more attentive to than they might be in email. And, because it's within their course. So tend to try and share out information that's important for them to know in a course announcement that they're more likely to read. Found that to be helpful. I think, and then, in terms of like technical tools that are out there, a lot of your fieldwork management systems have a communication function associated with it. So if you're looking to break down groups of students that you would need to contact or by cohort, there's a lot of really good options within those systems that are good for that. We're using Tavera, for example. Tavera keeps pretty good groups, but they don't get into there until field work. So
yeah.
On the other side of that, we have our student management system that, is connected with the registrar's office and can help with some of that too.
Yeah, we have a couple of listservs that we add and take students off as they're in and out of the program. We have an alumni listserv, we have a doctoral student listserv, and we have a master's student listserv. And, sometimes we'll just send notices out through that because it will hit everybody, even though it's targeted to a specific group like newly enrolled students. We'll still send it out to the listserv. We don't do a lot of mail traffic on that, but it is for large announcements. We have an orientation coming up in about 10 days. So we have sent that information out with a registration process. So hopefully we'll get a feel for who's going to come for that. But it's easier to send that out than to dig through specific emails or ask someone to sort those new students out through some database to be able to do it. As long as they're on the listserv and they're new students, they'll catch the announcement. And so will some of the students that have been on there for a couple of years. So
yeah, and on the LMS side, again, if it's not a course announcement, you can do a pop-up. They haven't they have different names based on what LMS you're using, whether it's Brightspace, Blackboard, or Canvas. But it'll be something that actually pops up. You'll see it sometimes when they do maintenance announcements on there. It'll pop up as soon as they log in. You can do program-specific announcements that way that target your students too. Now, if your university controls that LMS really tightly, you may not have permissions to do that. But you can seek those permissions and be able to post those kind of heads up messages for them that'll appear as soon as they log into the LMS. So that's another level of communication too that can be helpful for things that like orientations that might be really important that you want them to know about. You want them to be there or attend. Because again, email gets lost. We just talked about how we lose it, students lose it,
Yeah.
Maybe not as attentive to it or, screen that email. I really think there's something to be said for people only read the first paragraph or whatever of the email really intently. So, crafting your messages too, I make sure my emails are as concise as I can be.
Yeah, I'll bold certain areas of emails that I particularly want students to like. If you're a new student who've been in this program and this is your first semester, you must come to this. That kind of stuff will be in bold so they see it and it becomes a reality for them. What solutions have you attempted? What kind of ideas do you have in terms of email? I mean, I'll start. I tried Inbox Zero, but Inbox Zero is only, and that concept is you should act on emails to determine to act on them now, forward them to someone else who needs to act on them, or if you're never really going to act on them, just delete them. And it's often impossible just to act on everything now. That's where I think we need more data. I need to find out this date. I need to find out when registration starts in the spring. Those kind of things I've got to go find it, so I can't respond to it now. But the goal of Inbox Zero is to, each day clean everything out so you have nothing in your inbox. Well, I'm probably around 3,000 emails shy of that goal. I do have some things pinned at the top and I do have some things flagged. And if I go through those emails, part of my reaction will be, oh, they haven't got it by now. They're never going to expect to get it from me at this point. So, it's requests for, do you want to do this writing together or things like that, that I thought at the moment were hell yes, but it gets pinned and I never generate a response back to them. So that seems to have been a done deal. So that gets zeroed out. And then other things that I can act on immediately as reminders, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I more or less have things I want to try and haven't gotten to yet. So I was looking at this the other day. There's a AI powered email management. It's called Front, which I really like surface level wise, but I don't know what it all entails other than giving you some AI generated options for replies and helping you to, sort and filter through email. Looks like it's free to try, and they list some places as customers that I think, may lend it some validity to give it a shot. Folks from Workday and Cisco and Carvana use it. I think the other thing I thought was really neat, I think it's Reply.io. So that I like the idea of having set categories for how you're going to respond to an email. And it uses these 6 default folders: interested, not interested, not now, do not contact, forwarded, or no reply. So it helps you sort based on the actions that you take, which I think could be a really useful kind of thing. I just don't know quite yet what it works with. So I need to take a look at that a little bit more. But I thought about sorting my email that way instead of categories, because I can search for what I need. So instead of categorically putting them in folders for like student retention and admissions and all this and that, instead using the actions that I took on those emails or need to take on those emails to sort them. Because the search feature within, both Outlook and within Google is decent enough for me to find what I need, as long as I haven't deleted it. So I'm thinking about trying that out, even if I don't use a technical tool for this, like Reply.io. Maybe trying to change my workflow into these are the actions I've taken or plan to take.
Yep, $29 a month, billed annually. So there's a, I don't know, $400 investment right there.
Ew.
Yeah, I know, annually.
That's Reply.io.
Yeah, let me see. Monthly. Yeah, you do have a monthly option, and that is $53 a month. So
Yeah, I
annually,
mean,
it's
honestly, if it saved me enough time, it might be a worthwhile investment. I don't know that it will, but maybe it's worth giving it a shot.
yeah. Here's the thing that's a problem for me is that 7 day trial is really seductive, but that means I am going to have to spend enough time to learn this thing to determine whether or not I have 7 days in 7 days, whether it's worth the $400 investment if I pay them annually for it.
I'll also need a reminder at that seventh day so that I don't forget to cancel
They don't charge you the $400, and oh, I have a couple of accounts like that. Believe me, I have one
Yeah,
account now that did that to me, and it was a plugin essentially for a website, and worked really well, but then got zapped in terms of the credit card. So I don't have a choice to go back at this point.
yeah, I have been there far too often.
Yeah, my solutions are kind of low tech. Well, I don't want to say low tech, but are things that are already available within the mail system. I know some mail systems are set up now with AI responses. Apple Mail is going to be that way with the S Lady. So we're building more AI into it. So I know Spark has that built into it. And everybody loves it, but the learning curve is for me horrendous. It just is a different organizational process than what I'm used to. And I am running Spark parallel to my other email systems. Whenever I open up, it's like, where the hell is that email that I just got this morning? In Outlook, it's at the top of my list, but what the hell did Spark do with it? And so when I get frustrated and I hear everybody praising Spark, it's like it hasn't worked for me yet. But I keep trying. I keep looking for something that will make that happen. So my solutions are real simple. Generally, a combination of to-do lists and what I'm looking for is that to-do list where I can drag the email over to it. It just doesn't give me a pointer. It's more than a pointer. I can click on it and it hyperlinks to open that email up. So when I'm not in my email and I've got to-dos, I can do that and it works. I haven't tried out Outlook's to-do list and see whether or not it has that kind of interoperability. But my solutions again, to-do list combined with email. In email, it's pins and flags, and also folders. If I can use folders effectively and sort to folders for certain topics or certain things I need to respond to.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about moving toward a more decision-based sort. Because topically it's just becoming unwieldy. And I feel like I can find what I need in the search feature. So I think I need to be more task-based in my approach. And I think that's what I'm going to start doing. But it's going to take a little time to reorganize, I think.
Any other tips for listeners that you can think of?
Not really. Like I said, I think, checking out some of these third-party tools might be helpful. I would push again that AI has been really helpful in terms of drafting emails and those types of
Yeah.
things and using a text tool like TextBlaze to help you get away from some of those standard replies.
Yeah. I've got to integrate more of those as I'm in this position and I get more of the same responses. And it's like, I'm really interested in your program. Is there a time that we can meet? That's a simple generative email that could be in TextBlaze. I use Text Expander and that I could just use a code, put it in, and send it back to the individual. Okay, well, we need to explore this again sometime probably after, because we'll continue to struggle with this over a period of time. I'm curious to find out if there are companion programs that you've found that work and integrate. I'll go back and look at Spark. I'm not sure if Spark is available on PC or if it's only on Mac, but I'll look at Spark and see if I can figure out what their system is, because the problems I'm having with Outlook are unwieldy in terms of that work. So, well, today it's two frustrated tech savvy professors talking about managing student emails and particularly if you're in a program coordination position, because all of that stuff comes from multiple directions for you. If you'd like to email us, you can email us at podtalknetwork@gmail.com, and we'll try to respond to your question the next episode that we have. You can look for us on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, and all podcast servers. Our bumper music is from Philip Gross, Rast, from the Free Music Archive. Everything you need to know is at thepodtalk.net. Please be sure to look at our other shows, such as Circular Firing Squad and Vision Profiles, a new show on spatial computing. That's it for this episode. Thanks for subscribing to the Tech Savvy Professor.